Hey everyone, Shaun Brewster here, flying solo today, talking about a concept that I read about a little while ago that I really found interesting. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized this is absolutely true. And it's the idea of fast, cheap, or good, and the fact that we can't be more than one of those things at any one time. And if you apply this to just about any service, industry, or business, it holds true. So let's talk about this in the context of clinical practice as it relates to most of us. So whether you're running your own business or whether you're a therapist working for other people, you can only ever really be fast or cheap or good. You can't be more than one of those things at any one time. Let's pull that apart a little bit. So if your unique service offering, if your focus of your business is to be faster, to provide a service or make a service available to people on demand, they walk in, they get served right away. That's possible. In fact, we see it. We see it in the shopping center massage clinics, right? And in some clinics where you just walk up, get served, like an ED in a hospital. So if that's your unique service offering to be available at all times, it's possible, but it's going to be very, very difficult to be cheap at the same time. If you are that massage clinic in a shopping center, as an example, well, then you're going to have the overheads of being in a space where there's lots of foot traffic and being open and all those hours that they need to be open to service those people. You're also going to have to employ enough people that they can sit around and wait during the quiet times. So you're paying wages, you're paying the utilities, you're paying the rent on times where it's not going to be busy so that you can be available when it does get busy. So being fast is available, but being cheap is not really in that situation. Likewise, it's very difficult to be good, to be really good at what you do in a situation like that. Because if you are someone who has invested a lot of time and energy and money into becoming exceptionally good at what you do, then you're going to want to charge for that. You're going to want to be able to work in a situation where you can manage your time more effectively, be structured in the way that you work, and spend more time with people and rebook them on a schedule that makes sense for their presentation, not based on the fact that they just walked in the door and would like to see you. So you can be fast, but you probably can't be cheap. And if you're good at what you do, then you don't really want to work in that setting anyway. So that's the first one. Let's look now if your unique service model is to charge less. If you can charge less for your service, then you can help lots of people that maybe can't afford to spend a little bit more money. Nothing wrong with that, except for the fact that it's a really hard business model to sustain yourself with. So if your unique service offering is to be cheaper and to charge less for what you do, well, then you're probably going to struggle with fast, because to be cheap, you need to be able to have low overheads. You need to have little or no extra staff because you can't afford to pay people to sit around. And you probably can't necessarily sit around yourself for too long because you're only charging small amounts of money. So you can only work in a limited way. You probably have to do other work as well, potentially, to sustain yourself. So it's possible, but it's very, very difficult to do cheap and fast. At the same time that if you are not charging much for what you do and you have invested a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of money to get really good at what you do, then you need to be rewarded for that. Very few people put in the time, commitment, and energy to get really, really good at what they do, to be able to offer a very specialized service and help people in a very specific way. So if that's the case, you're probably not going to be cheap. You won't want to be. You want to be valued for the work that you do. And there is a perceived value in what we charge people. So if our price for our service is far lower, or even a little lower than the average service provider in your area, then you will be potentially perceived as someone who's providing a service that is of less value. It's a perception thing, and value is a perception, absolutely. So you can be cheap, you probably can't be fast, and you definitely probably won't be good. So there's those two. And then the last one is good. This is for the person who's just damn good at what they do. And again, it's a small percentage of people who are exceptionally good and can provide that service in a way that sustains them. So if you're really good at what you do, then you're probably not going to be very fast because you won't be available. If you're good at what you do, especially if you've been doing it for a while, you're going to have a queue. There'll be people waiting to see you, and they'll be willing to wait to see you. So if you're good, you're probably not going to be fast. You need to work in the time, in the structure that you know that you need to work in to be able to provide that exceptionally good service. If you are really good at what you do, then you're probably not going to be cheap because, again, you invested all that time, money, and effort into getting to that point. It's taken you years to get really good at what you do, and you should be rewarded for that, because for the people who are running a fast or a cheap service, they don't need to be good. They can afford to not be good because the service they're providing is not as specialized. It's not as highly targeted or specific as the one you're doing if you're really good at what you do. So you're not going to be cheap. You're not going to be fast. You're just going to be good. These are all options. Fast, cheap, and good are options in the kind of service that you provide, in the products that you provide, and the kind of therapist that you might choose to be. The question, of course, is which one do you choose to be? And this is, I think, having spoken to lots of therapists over the years, a lot of the time people want to be really good at what they do and they study really hard and they get really good at what they do. But at the same time, they feel bad about charging a little bit extra to reflect all that time and effort and money that they've put into their education. And you can't do both of those things. It just doesn't work. In fact, anyone who's really good at what they do will charge more for that. And people will expect that, and people will pay it if they value what they're doing. If you're really good at what you do, you will attract better quality patients. And don't get me wrong, what I mean by better quality patients, I mean the kind of patients that really need your service, will get the most out of it, will recognize the quality that you provide, will listen to your advice, and will get results. If you're really good at what you do and you charge less, then you probably attract patients or clients who are looking to not spend as much money. Maybe they're just looking to save money. They just want something they're not really chasing a high quality service. They're chasing something that's affordable. Now, there are business models that suit that. And those patients, those clients will find those business models. But if you're really good at what you do, you should charge for it and it will be recognized. And that becomes a much more sustainable business model to work in. So fast, cheap, or good. You can only pick one. Which one will you pick?